welcome to Into the Abyss podcast. My name is Todd Decker, and I'm back here again with Jeff, our Star Wars expert. And there has been a lot happening in the world of Star Wars lately, so there's a lot to talk about. Jeff, welcome back.
Hey, Todd, how's it going? I guess the first thing I need to do is show off my new shirt that I got.
That's how we always do it.
So
what do you got?
I've got a Baby Yoda here, and it says I'm all ears. So I got this at Target.
Funny. My daughters were recently introduced to Baby Yoda or Grogu, and loved him. So we haven't been having them watch The Mandalorian regularly because I think it's still a little too scary for them. Do your kids watch
They do, but we do screen them ahead of time.
Okay.
Like the second episode of this season was a little on the scary side, so I warned my son about it. But he actually took it in stride. He's 8.
Okay.
But I think the younger kids wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. So.
Yeah. So I watched. Well, I actually didn't intend to. It was one of these things where I was just watching it on my own on my laptop while the kids were watching their own thing. But then they all came and were hanging on to me and saying, "What are you watching? What are you watching?" And I ended up just watching it, and it was fine. But they really liked Grogu. And
they're not too bad. Yeah, they're not too bad for kids. I'd say.
Yeah.
It can be intense.
So do you like calling him Grogu or Baby Yoda?
I switch in between. I've got both down.
I've seen some funny memes about wanting to still call him Baby Yoda. Yeah, they're pretty funny, but like there was one where it's just Din Djarin, Ahsoka, and Grogu / Baby Yoda sitting around the fire, and she says, I've only seen one like him before, a great Jedi Master named Yoda, and then the Mando says, so he's a Baby Yoda, and then Baby Yoda goes, "Goo?" And then Ahsoka says, "That's right. That's his name, Baby Yoda." I think it's really cute how Grogu perks up every time he says his name.
It's great. It works out. It must have been really hard to come up with a good name because, whatever they name him, some people will have a problem with it because they've been calling him Baby Yoda for a year now. But I think it fits pretty well. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like, a lot of people are expecting like a Y name, like Yogu or Yola, or
Yeah.
but because the only other Yoda-like species character is named Yaddle, but it fits because it's like it's 2 syllables.
Yeah.
It's simple consonant and vowel construction, so you could imagine, which I'm sure they have linguists or people who study languages involved in developing it. That's what they do in Star Wars. They actually create languages based on listening to other languages and trying to mimic those sounds. Not necessarily the way a true linguist would, where they're actually building vocabularies and grammar structures, but it's sound structures. It's what are the sounds that this species would make, and how can we take a real life language and kind of mimic those types of sounds and make it sound like a foreign alien language. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how they built the languages. And so you can imagine a language where Grogu and Yoda, those sounds are easily made because the types of vowels and the types of consonants that are used. So it matches. That's my nerdy take on it.
They get into the physiology of that species and deduce that, if they can say this, then this would come naturally.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
That reminds me, in one of these great courses by John McWhorter, he does the linguistics courses. I forget which one it was. I think it's a language from the steppes of Russia. I want to say it was Ket, that the Ewoks were based off of or something. Do you happen to know?
Yes. I do. I don't remember which specific language it was, but I believe it was a Siberian language where they had like a native speaker. They just recorded them speaking. I think it was an old lady, actually. Just a lot of speaking, and then they selected sounds and expressions from that language. So it's not like they're speaking comprehensible
but
language,
kind of,
but just the mimic sound.
yeah,
Similar
following the
sound.
sounds of it. Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember if that was the one where they actually even used the woman, their voice in the movie. I can't recall,
Oh.
but I feel like that might have happened at some point.
Mm-hmm. But I agree. Grogu seems to be a good name.
Yeah.
The only I've only seen like joking pushback, nothing serious, like
Yeah.
uh,
It works.
dumpster burning, like, or this is over. We're not following the series anymore. We hate Star Wars.
Yes. Yes.
No, it seems like it's okay. So anyway, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about fan service.
All right.
So, yeah, I did a little bit of research leading up to this discussion, but before we get into that, I did want to just discuss all the other news that came out yesterday.
Yeah, totally. Current events in Star Wars.
Or
if there ever were one, this
Thursday.
is the week, huh?
Yeah, Thursday they had the big investor event, and they announced that they're already developing 2 companion series to The Mandalorian. So they have one that's called The Rangers of the New Republic, and who knows exactly what that'll be about, but it sounds like, to me, X-Wing pilot type thing, or people who work for the New Republic ranging around the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And it has kind of like a Top Gun looking logo, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like that. And then the other one is the Ahsoka series, and all 3 of those series are going to interact and lead up to culminate in a big event, they said.
Oh.
So I'm really looking forward to whatever that is.
So it's going to be kind of a Avengers style crossing of the streams.
Yeah,
nice.
And we will have lots of spoilers in this discussion for anybody who is listening.
Yeah.
But I'll just say that so far in The Mandalorian, we've seen little threads building towards, it starts just after Return of the Jedi. So you've seen a lot of Imperial things and, Tatooine and different things that came from the original trilogy. But you're starting to see the threads leading towards the First Order and the sequel trilogy, which I'm really excited about, because there's some apprehension among some fans about the sequel trilogy. Some people don't like the sequel trilogy at all. I know you and I both like it, but I'm hoping that it's kind of like a prequel situation where you can heal some wounds by tying it into something that people like. So by everyone seems to like The Mandalorian. So if you can kind of build into the sequel trilogy into the The Mandalorian, then it will kind of draw those people back and maybe rethink it later. I'm hoping, they'll see, it all fits into this whole of something that I like. And so I think it can go a long way to healing some of those divides about people.
Yeah, it's almost maybe when they made the sequel trilogy, they should have said something like, okay, guys, there's just going to be this entity, First Order, that comes on the scene from out of nowhere, seemingly, but it's going to be explained later on.
And a lot of people made fun of the fact that the Emperor comes back with no explanation. And this is actually a good discussion for our fan service today, but maybe I'll circle back to this at the end. But, you don't know, a lot of people complain they don't know how the Emperor got back. It doesn't explain that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I don't want them to explain everything in a 2-hour movie. There needs to be some things that are kind of not explained, and it's just you have to walk into it assuming this is the way things are. Let's just go for this ride, and then maybe someday it'll come back and explain it if we really want to know.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's kind of what they're doing a little bit. There's some seeds being planted.
Does it seem at all like comparison to the Star Trek universe? The Star Trek universe is very, very developed, but it's also a TV show, right? So it has hours and hours of material. It almost seems like there's some benefit there where we're going to be getting that with Star Wars now. Yeah.
And in fact, they also announced a few other series that are going on. So one of them is Andor, which is based on Cassian Andor from the Rogue One.
Oh, okay, yeah, nice.
And that series was already announced, but it actually has recently started filming.
Same actor?
Diego Luna, who played Cassian Andor, confirmed last week that he's in London filming that series right now. And they showed a little footage of that on the Investor Day presentation, so that was really cool. They showed some of the sets and the character designs, and they showed Diego. So I'm really excited about that one. That period before New Hope, before Rogue One. I'm really interested to get more into that, about how the rebellion kind of comes into being.
Right. Yeah.
Then the second series that was already confirmed last year, but they confirmed again, is Obi-Wan Kenobi. They confirmed the title is Obi-Wan Kenobi. A lot of people thought it was just going to be called Kenobi, just to kind of keep it short and simple. But they decided to go with Obi-Wan Kenobi, which, sure, sounds great.
Okay.
And which is ironic since he hasn't gone by that name since well before Luke was born.
Before you were born. That's right.
But still, anyway, so that'll be fun. And they announced that not only Ewan McGregor, who plays Obi-Wan, but also Hayden Christensen, who plays Anakin Skywalker, will be in that series. It's a 6-episode limited series, one season. There's not going to be a second season. I mean, never say never, but we pretty much know it's just a 6-episode, basically a movie drawn out into 6 episodes, maybe even as short as a movie, the way these episodes are going.
So it's 6 hours, huh? Or 6 episodes?
6 episodes. So it could be as few as 3 hours.
A mini-series. Nice. I like mini-series. If that's how
we don't know exactly how the interactions are going to go, but the way that they're talking about it sounds like there's going to be some kind of a rematch, or at least some kind of interaction between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Okay.
And I think they said 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So it'll be like halfway between Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
And it could be that there's flashbacks to before, or it could be that they somehow encounter each other again.
There's a lot they could do.
Yeah. Like there's a line in A New Hope that says that Darth Vader's walking through the halls and he's like, I sense something, a presence I haven't felt since ... And he doesn't say when was the last time he felt that presence. So it could have been 10 years ago, could have been when he was on that lava field looking down at Obi-Wan, or looking up at Obi-Wan as he's about to get burned. But anyway, we'll find out. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that they announced that Anakin was going to be in it, because it could have been a big surprise where you're watching the show and then dun dun dun, here's Darth Vader. But I think they just decided, I think this is one of those things that has the potential to be controversial among a certain subset of the fan base, and they just wanted to get that out there so people can get used to the idea. A lot of people are super excited. I'm one of those. I really want to see this this matchup rematch. So I'm excited about that. But by leaking it, it's not going to be like people won't be disappointed as they're watching it.
Now, has there been anything? And maybe this is something they would save. Any talk about Liam Neeson being in it?
No, I think that would be a good surprise if they had like a Force Ghost Liam Neeson, which I 100% think that's a possibility.
Well, it would make sense, right? Because, and Revenge of the Sith, I've only seen Revenge of the Sith a few times because it came out when I was on my mission. And so anyway, I watched it a few weeks ago, and I don't know if the nth time that I've seen it, I don't know what that would be. But anyway, Yoda says something I hadn't noticed before. He's saying, you're going to go on Tatooine, and you're going to meet an old comrade. And he says Qui-Gon, and I didn't realize that was in there. But anyway, so it seems to be, it would make sense that there would be some interaction.
Exactly. The canon is that Qui-Gon teaches Obi-Wan how to merge with the Force at death, and so that's how he's able to do that, because it's a skill that not all Jedi have, but he kind of learns it. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, and it wouldn't be the first time Liam Neeson has returned to reprise that role. Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
Obviously, he did in
the Clone Wars.
The Clone Wars is probably the most extensive. Rise of Skywalker also, but
his voice.
That was just a quick one. But yeah, the Clone Wars, he was doing it. So yeah, that would be interesting.
So the other projects quickly that were announced. One was called the Acolyte, which is going to be a High Republic era.
Acolyte
series.
Or Acolyte?
Acolyte. Sorry.
Okay.
Acolyte. That it takes place during the High Republic, which is about 200 years before the Old Republic.
Okay.
So it's like a medieval style Star Wars era.
Oh.
And Yoda is alive during that time period, and it's been confirmed in the novels that are going along this time period that Yoda is around.
Yeah.
So that's possible if you could be a part of it.
I need to find. I just saw this on Facebook. It was like a timeline, kind of showing where all these fit in together.
Oh yeah.
Now, and maybe the Acolyte was just an estimate. It looked like it was a little before the Phantom Menace, but do we know like how long before?
High Republic, they've confirmed, means a couple hundred years before the Phantom Menace. But it could be any time. It could be really any time before the Phantom Menace.
Because was the Phantom Menace during the High Republic?
No, it was during. It was they defined the High Republic specifically as this kind of medieval time period, which is 200 years before, and then the kind of the sunset era of the Old Republic is the Phantom Menace prequels.
Seems very Roman, like kind of. You got your Rome, then Empire, and
that's kind of what they're going for.
Well, and it also reminds me of High Middle Ages when I hear High Republic. I don't know if that was.
So I think that's kind of intentional. Yeah, and then the last project they announced was my favorite, probably. I don't know. I'm excited for all of them. But Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman, is making a film, Rogue Squadron, which is loosely tied in with. There's a video game, Rogue Squadron, and there's a book series, Rogue Squadron. I've actually read today. Patty Jenkins confirmed that it's going to be an original story, so it'll be new. It's not going to be the exact storyline of any of the novels or anything else we've seen before, but it will take place sometime after Return of the Jedi. It could actually take place after the sequel trilogy. That hasn't been confirmed definitively yet. But there's some,
okay. Yeah, I'm going to pull up this timeline that I got just so.
There's some language in one of the announcements that said it will take us into the new era of the galaxy. Okay. Which is unclear to me if that means the new era after Return of the Jedi or new era after the Rise of Skywalker. So we'll see.
When you said language, I thought you were meaning like somebody had used some inappropriate language or something.
No, I just meant that
would be unusual for Disney.
I just meant like a little.
There was something there to indicate
commentary. On what the project was.
Okay.
And that one, and it sounds definitely like it'll involve X-wings and fighter pilots and that kind of thing. So it'll be very space war heavy, which is appropriate.
So I don't know.
That's
you see that? Okay, so and it's kind of blocking. Oh no,
I can move it.
You can see it. Okay. I'm gonna minimize this real quick. Okay, so this kind of shows. Oh, okay. It doesn't really have scale, but okay. So the Acolytes is before there. Now, did you mention the Bad Batch?
The Bad Batch, that was animated, so I didn't really go into the animated. There's three animated projects they announced. The Bad Batch.
Okay, they're animated.
Yeah, so the Bad Batch is the animated follow-up to the Clone Wars. It's going to take place right around Revenge of the Sith and thereafter. So that's the Bad Batch was introduced in the Clone Wars. It's like a group of 5 clones who are mutated in a way that they each have specific skills, but they're also kind of outcasts from the regular clones. And so it's kind of fun. It's just I'm sure they're going to take us into what happens to the clones after Order 66 and what happens to the Empire as it expands. And then the second project they announced was Visions, which you see is kind of expands the whole timeline. It's just going to be a limited animated series where they kind of like take little vignettes from the whole timeline and like they'll explore one little story at a time in each episode.
Okay. All right.
That's my understanding. And then Droids, they haven't announced exactly when that takes place, but it supposedly will follow C-3PO and R2-D2.
Oh, okay.
And that will be another limited animated series.
Okay, nice.
And it's not clear, again, how long these episodes are. Like, are they going to be 5-minute episodes or 25? The Bad Batch is almost definitely going to be the same length as the Clone Wars episodes, which is like 22, 23-minute TV episodes. But the other ones, I'm not sure. So yeah, I think we've covered everything that's on this.
Did we mention Lando?
Oh, forgot to mention Lando. So Lando is the one that's still in pre development. They haven't really gotten too far into that, so it's not clear who's even going to play Lando, what other characters are going to be in it. And actually, it's not even clear if it's going to be pre or post Solo. The image they used was the Millennium Falcon with the escape pod at the front. So the Millennium Falcon has like an indentation in the front where there used to be an escape pod, and during Solo it gets jettisoned and now it has that distinct shape. They use the pre-escape pod version of it in the promotional image.
So that
which
would be
gives
before Solo, probably,
so
if
that
that's the
it
case.
gives the impression it's before Solo. So it
Yeah.
could actually.
Okay.
I can't believe how much I know about this already 2 days
That's
after
great.
the
I love it.
announcement. But anyway, so we'll see. I'm excited. I really would like to see a follow-up to Solo, though. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of fans would like to see that. And so I think that's going to be a separate project that may or may not be announced down the line, but it won't really be the same thing as Lando. I think Lando will be its own thing.
And is Lando a film or a show?
It's a show, a Disney Plus
great.
show.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, that covers it. So
it's a lot. My goodness. Did you know this was coming? Like that we were going to get this huge feast of.
They announced the Investor Day a couple months ago, and then they started announcing in the last week that they were going to be making some major announcements related to Star Wars and Marvel. So I was watching the whole investor presentation, actually. Okay. I had it on to the side while I was at work and following along. So, but it was about a half hour. That was the Star Wars section.
Okay.
It was
nice.
It was pretty incredible. They had some promotional trailers and descriptions and things like that, interviews. You can find most of them on the Star Wars YouTube page.
Oh, nice. I'll have to go look at that. I see things on social media all the time, but I have a hard time knowing if it's real or fan generated. Promotional posters or I'll see little previews and I get all excited. Oh, there's a trailer, and oh wait, no, these are just snippets from other movies these guys were in.
You got to be in the fan community long enough to be able to recognize which sources are legitimate, which ones make up their own stuff, and which ones are basically pulling from.
Relating to a previous episode with Pete, the knowledge of what's true and fake news applies even in this field.
That's true. Yes,
there's a lot of fake news out there.
It's hard to tell if you didn't know.
Because a lot of it's very well done.
Mm-hmm. I trust only a handful of Twitter handles, to be honest. If they retweet it or if they cite a story, then I'll know that it's probably at least based in some kind of fact. And then I won't really take it as news until an official Star Wars or Lucasfilm or ILM or whoever it is announces it. So
now I noticed there was no Blue Jeans guy spin-off series.
Yeah, he's been scrubbed. No, he's no longer in the.
Well, I think you saw my meme with Mace Windu saying he's too dangerous to be left alive.
Poor Jeans.
There's a lot of funny things around that.
All right, so we're about halfway through of our time, so let's go ahead and talk about
let's get into the fan stuff.
Fan service. So the topic of fan service. The definition of fan service is, and I looked it up, material in a work of fiction or a fictional series which is intentionally added to please the audience. And the definition I looked up actually also mentioned that it's often sexual in nature or romantic in nature. So it's like fans want to see this particular character pairing so that, have that wish fulfillment of romance or sexualization. And so I'm going to ignore that part because that has to do mostly with anime. That's what I read. So I'm just going to ignore that part. When we talk about fan service in Star Wars and other blockbuster film franchises, it's mostly talking about things like there's a couple categories that I kind of came up with of examples that I've heard of fan service being used. One is explaining a backstory. How did Han get his blaster? How did Han get the Millennium Falcon? How did the Death Star plans come into existence? So that's kind of like a backstory that you just get hinted at in a movie that you're watching. Someday we're going to go back and we're going to have some fan service by explaining what that is. A second kind of category is having a juxtaposition of elements from earlier films that is pleasing to the audience. So like having Ahsoka and Vader meet again, or having two characters that haven't met before crossing paths. That's kind of a crowd-pleasing moment because it's like, we want to see this again, or this particular juxtaposition. Another would be reviving a fan favorite character or location. So going back to Tatooine after we loved it in The New Hope, or seeing Boba Fett again. So these are kind of fan service tropes that you could use to please your fan base. Now, of course, you want your entire TV series or film to be pleasing to the fans. So there's kind of a tough line to draw on what is fan service and what is just making a good film.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, everything in a good film would be both serving the fans and serving the film.
Right.
But
because the idea is there, it can be kind of gratuitous, where it's like we're just throwing stuff at the wall and not really caring about quality.
So the extreme would be like a fan-fic film, where fans just say, you know what, our wish is to see these things. Let's just put them together and make a film where everything we want is in that film.
Yeah. But there's not much of a story or
and it could be well done, but it's a wish fulfillment for those fans. And not every fan wants the same thing. So if a fan makes a film, they're making exactly what they wanted to make. So it's by definition kind of a fan service to that particular fan. Anyway, so a classic example of fan service to me is Indiana Jones. So when you first meet the character of Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark, he's a very mysterious character. You don't know anything about his backstory. You just see this man in a jungle. He looks intriguing. You can tell he's smart. You can tell he's talented. And it's just that international man of mystery. He's got the fedora on. The mystery is what makes him such a compelling character in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Over the course of Raiders of the Lost Ark, you learn more about him, and he becomes more humanized, and he sees his flaws. And I'd argue by the end of that film, preserving that man of mystery facade is no longer necessary, and that's why in Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade, you get to see more of his backstory, and I don't think it ruins the character. Some people say that we didn't need any sequels to Raiders of the Lost Ark. They want to preserve that mysterious origins. They just would rather have said, this is it. Indiana Jones is Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's nothing else that needs to be said about this character. Otherwise, we'll ruin him. And I disagree with that, but that's a perspective that some people have. But then you go on to especially The Last Crusade. The Last Crusade has an entire 20-minute segment at the beginning that many have described as being fan service because it explains his backstory. And not a lot of films had done that before, so I think it gets a pass as being the first, example of really doing that. Taking a classic hero that everyone loves and having a little segment explaining his backstory. In that 20 minutes, he gets his whip. He gets the scar on his chin that Harrison Ford actually has a scar on his chin. So it kind of explains why does Harrison Ford have this scar. He gets dropped into a bucket of snakes. And so therefore, you can tell at the beginning, he's not afraid of snakes because he holds one up. Yeah. But then after he falls in there and he gets one in his pants and he's all slithering around him, then he's afraid of snakes only after that point. So we have identified the exact moment when Indiana Jones gets his fear of snakes. He also gets his fedora at the end of that segment from the guy that he was chasing after. And he gets, you meet his father, you find out why he got introduced to archaeology and all this stuff. So that 20-minute segment is kind of like the backstory of Indiana Jones. Did we need to know that? No. Raiders of the Lost Ark works by itself. But I really love The Last Crusade. It's actually my favorite movie. And I think having that backstory is kind of fun. It's just a lighthearted film. Yeah. It's not that serious. It doesn't ruin anything. It just adds more to the character.
Well, and also, I guess the one part, it's just a few seconds, but you do get the idea that his father was kind of absent during his childhood. Which they play on later.
Yes.
But I see what you mean there. I hadn't thought of that. The idea that all this stuff happens in one day is not very realistic.
Yeah, that's true. But it works so well in the movie. I mean, you watch that movie, it's just a fun movie.
Yeah,
Like I said, it's my favorite film of all time.
That was actually the first Indiana Jones film I saw. Because growing up, my dad would have his favorites, and those would be the ones we would watch. So I saw The Last Crusade many, many times before I ever saw any of the other two.
I think
actually, Temple of Doom I've only seen recently in the last couple of years.
Yeah, a lot of people, Temple of Doom is their favorite. It's kind of like the cult classic.
I could
But
see that. It's very different than the other two, but
you could probably tell a lot about a person by which of the Indiana Jones films is their favorite. But the Last Crusade is mine, and like I said, not just my favorite Indiana Jones film, but my favorite film of all time is the Last Crusade.
Nice.
More so, I'd say, for the father-son relationship and everything
Yes.
that happens after that 20-minute montage. But I like that segment as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good. The music is really incredible. There's
Mm-hmm.
a 20-minute cue written by John Williams, and on the soundtrack, it's a single track. It's called Indy's Very First Adventure, and it's just a great
nice.
track.
Huh. I'll have to listen to it.
Anyway, moving on from Indiana Jones, because this is about Star Wars, of course. There's some examples in Star Wars of fan service, and I tried to go through each film and decide, try to find at least one example. Even going back to The Empire Strikes Back, again, it's hard to cross the line of what's fan service. Is Obi-Wan appearing fan service? Because he died in the last one, so is bringing his ghost back fan service just because people want to see Obi-Wan again? And I kind of think, you could probably make the argument that that's fan service. Another aspect of fan service that goes through most of the films actually is Boba Fett, who his first appearance was in the holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special. He also had a little figurine that was released around that time that was very popular, and then he's in The Empire Strikes Back just very briefly. He has a key role, but you don't really see him very much.
Doesn't do a whole lot, yeah.
He just captures Han. That's about it.
Yeah.
And then in The Return of the Jedi, he's the one that ruined Han's life almost. He almost resulted in Han being captured, killed. He could have ruined everything, but luckily the rebels got him back. But so it was very fulfilling and probably fan servicey to have Boba Fett have that fitting end where he's swallowed by the Sarlacc, the Sarlacc burps.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's kind of a fan servicey moment. It's like this horrible villain that everybody loves to hate and loves to love in some cases.
Yeah.
Gets a fulfilling end. And then but then you bring Boba Fett back. Now you didn't have to have Boba Fett in the prequels at all. But George Lucas decided, you know what? Let's make Jango Fett, his dad, the model for all the clones. It could have been anybody that was the model for the clones, but he brought back Boba Fett specifically. That could be argued as being fan service. And now you have Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. That's, it's awesome fan service. I'm not going to lie, but seeing him back after Return of the Jedi, getting his armor back, and whooping those stormtroopers, it's pretty fulfilling to see. But that's fan service right there for you.
Yeah, definitely. I had the same thought as well. I loved the scene. I watched it several times once he gets his armor back. But
so moving on to the prequels, there's lots of fan service in the prequels, but one in particular I thought about was the droids. So you get
yes, absolutely.
R2D2 comes and he saves Queen Amidala's ship. Like that's probably the most fan servicey moment of the Phantom Menace. But I remember watching that the first time and everyone cheered when R2D2 saved the day. So I'd say it was a fulfilling moment. And then the oddest one to me though is C-3PO. I think we talked about this before. Why did Anakin have to be the one to create C-3PO? It kind of ruins everything about continuity in the entire rest of the series. Because he should have known who C-3PO was. And in fact, Uncle Owen should have known who C-3PO was when he came back in A New Hope. Because he lived there for at least like a year or two. Who knows how long C-3PO was living there with Uncle Owen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But I guess he's all protocol droids look the same to Owen. He's kind of biased, I guess.
Now, but isn't a protocol droid also like? Well, what is a protocol droid?
They kind of use it as like a interpreter or like a butler type thing. That's kind of how they use the term protocol droid in the films. But it also is kind of implied that those shiny metal 3PO looking ones are all protocol droids.
Right, because he's got twins throughout the galaxy, right? That
Yeah, there's
look
others.
the same as him.
There's others, but you'd think you could recognize the one that lived with you for a couple years.
Yeah. But I guess my point being, Anakin out in the middle of Tatooine on the edge of the galaxy decided to make it after this exact model.
Yeah.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but
but it's fine. But it's cool.
Yes,
cool.
Exactly.
It's the way it is, and so we're going to accept it, and there you go. But I'd definitely say having C-3PO in the prequel trilogy is an example of fan service.
Uh-huh.
And also service to Anthony Daniels and getting to have a paycheck.
Yes, Anthony Daniels is the guy, right? Is he still alive?
Yes, he is. And
he was in Rise of Skywalker.
He is the only actor who's been in every single Star Wars film to date.
Okay, nice.
So going back to Return of the Jedi, having the second Death Star is an example of fan service.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone loved the Death Star, and so you had to have another Death Star. So I think that's a good example of fan service. It really was. I think they kind of improved on it. Like the trench run going all the way into the middle of the Death Star was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
which I guess they could do since it wasn't completed, right?
Yeah. Let's see. In the sequel trilogy, a couple examples. One is Rey. There's lots of The Force Awakens is pretty fan servicey because a lot of people argue that it's a remake of A New Hope, but I think it's different enough to me that it feels like it's okay to have that fan service in there. But one example I thought of was Rey sitting next to the AT-AT walker, the AT-AT walker.
Okay, yeah.
She has her little helmet on and she's like eating her rations. That was kind of like fan service. Like, hey,
that part reminded me of A New Hope. So Heather and I were watching A New Hope, and we were laughing because, like Luke Skywalker, when you first meet him, and he's tinkering with the droids and fixing them up, he's like sitting down and playing with his.
Oh yeah, I love
he's like
that
a little
part.
kid.
I would do the same thing. Let's be honest.
You would.
I have my Millennium Falcon in my bedroom right now.
Yeah,
so
it's very fun. I mean, it definitely plays up the idea that this is a very innocent kid. Well, and I thought it was funny in the Lego Christmas special, like they have him drinking some milk, and isn't it even the blue milk?
Yes, it is. And I feel like he always has like a milk mustache.
A milk mustache.
It's so cute. Anyway.
But yeah, so Rey and with her helmet on, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Last Jedi. There's a couple examples I thought of here. One is getting to see Rey and Kylo team up to take on Snoke. Oh my gosh, that whole scene. Oh, I loved it. It was amazing.
And I understand that was like probably evoked the most cheering from audiences.
Oh yeah,
kind
of
of
sure.
what
Definitely a lot of cheering. I still have a hard time watching that without cheering to myself. It's a great moment. Mm-hmm. You just want to see them gang up and take on Snoke. And like the way, Kylo chopping him in half, that's wish fulfillment. Oh man, that's wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
But and it kind of ruined the villain arc of the sequel trilogy to not have Snoke anymore. That's kind of why you had to have the Emperor come back. Maybe it wasn't the best choice to kill off the big bad in the second movie, but I think it works out in the end because I like having the Emperor back. But I think if you were designing a trilogy from scratch, you probably wouldn't kill off your biggest villain in the second film unless they had already wanted to plan it ahead a little bit better to have the Emperor come back earlier. Mm-hmm. But whatever. Anyway, it was a good moment. Yeah. And another item in The Last Jedi was the dice that Luke gives to Leia, the ones that hung in the rearview mirror of the Millennium Falcon. I'd call that definite fan service because the dice really weren't supposed to exist in real life. It was kind of a gag, but it's taken on more meaning since.
Yes. Now, were the dice in the original trilogy?
Yeah, in A New Hope, you can see the dice hanging from the mirror.
That's hilarious. I mean, was that a nod to any other like Lucas or Ford films?
I don't know that for sure. I wonder if it's if it's a reference to something else, or if it's just
I wondered if like American Graffiti or
American
something.
Graffiti. If it is a reference to something, it would be that. But or maybe just the fact that a lot of people have dice hanging from their
Yeah, it's like his sports car, right?
Yeah, it's like exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I thought that was really neat.
And the last one I wanted to bring up is the Rise of Skywalker, raising the X-wing from the swamp in The Empire Strikes Back. You get the repeat of that with Luke raising the X-wing from the ocean, and then the other one was Chewie getting his medal from Leia. She had been keeping Han's medal, and Chewie finally got his medal.
What's the story behind that? Because did he not get a medal in A New Hope?
In A New Hope, at the end, he doesn't get a medal, and with our more culturally sensitive audience today, it seems kind of prejudiced against him to not give him a medal too. Just because he's not
he's a Wookiee.
He's not a human. He's not a human, so he doesn't deserve a medal. But he did the same things that Han and Luke did, so he should get a medal too. So I think that was a good moment to see Chewie finally get his medal, get his recognition for all the things that he had done.
Yeah.
And it's something that's been a discussion in the fan community leading up to it. So that's kind of why I think it's especially fan servicey, is because it had been discussed in the fan community. It's not like it was something that they just came up with,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the main examples, just some examples I wanted to talk about. And so now I just want to talk about, is fan service good or bad? And I'll first open up to you. Do you have an opinion on that?
When you brought up the subject to me earlier, I was thinking that I don't really have a problem with it. I think it's fine for this type of fictional world in this genre. I think that's fine to do. I mean, I think one of the risks could be that you try too hard and overshoot, right? Like, and then it just seems that it'll turn off fans even more. But as far as like making something that's going to be satisfying for viewers, I think that's fine. In the arts, sometimes making something that's not immediately satisfying and challenging has value also. But I don't know if that's really if Star Wars is the place for that.
Yeah.
If that's what I really want when I'm sitting down to watch it. I felt like The Last Jedi did that a little more. And I do like that of it, but it's different, It kind of threw things mixed things up a little bit, and it did make it interesting. But in certain ways not as satisfying, right? Because one of the examples I was thinking of is of a lack of fan service was Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy. I would have wanted to see more of Luke in action. But on the other hand, I do like what Rian Johnson did with it, with his character, and I thought that was interesting as well. But it was definitely not what I was looking for walking into the theater. So I guess my short answer, wrapping back, would be I think in a Star Wars type of settings, fan service is probably a good thing, whereas in other genres, it probably wouldn't be what you would do. But
that's a really great point, and it's a great way to understand why some people weren't satisfied with the sequel trilogy, is because when you go to see something like Star Wars, you're expecting to be entertained, you're expecting to be satisfied as a fan. You're not expecting to go see War and Peace or or like some kind of intellectual drama. You just want to go have fun.
Right.
And so I think that for a lot of people, having fun means not being challenged as a viewer and just having fun, exciting, pleasing things happen on the screen. So I can totally understand the perspective of why some people don't like The Last Jedi, for example, with that kind of in mind. That said, I did like it, and a lot of people do think it's one of the better Star Wars films. from a filmic perspective.
Yes.
I can enjoy a film both ways. Personally,
Yeah.
I can enjoy watching it intellectually. I can watch it appreciating the art, and I can enjoy it just taking whatever enjoyment or entertainment value I can find out of it. Even if I don't like the artsy side of it, I can still find things to like. Seeing an entire movie with Luke Skywalker was enough fan service for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Luke was in that movie for over 30 minutes of screen time, which is more than I could have asked for. Leia didn't get that much screen time. Not even Han got that much screen time. So I think it was a good use of that film to have a real exploration of Luke as a character.
Yeah. Well, and I've been thinking about Luke Skywalker, because I was, the Star Wars Theory YouTube channel, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was talking about Luke and some of his powers that you see in is it Legend, where it's not canon?
Mm-hmm.
But he observed, like, Luke, we don't see him in the films doing a lot of the things that other Jedi do. He doesn't seem to be the most powerful Jedi or most extraordinary. But in his character story, he definitely was. I mean, he was very significant. But a lot of it's not really like lightsaber duels and extraordinary force-wielding feats. Most of what makes Luke remarkable as a character is his development and the situations that he's put in. That's one of the, like I was mentioning, he starts off where he's playing with his toys on Tatooine, and then when he's on Dagobah, goes through a lot of emotional development and maturation, right? Because he's kind of starts off there as like an impatient, spoiled brat.
Yeah.
And grows a lot in his time with Yoda. And he does learn the ways of the Force and how to lift things and that type of stuff. But he's not as flashy a Jedi Knight as we see in the sequel, for instance, with Qui-Gon and Anakin and Obi-Wan. But it seems like him as a character, he fulfills a different role.
Yeah.
And that seems to carry on in the sequel trilogy as well. It's mostly dialogue and introspection, growth, because also in the sequel trilogy, Luke is developing, but in a way he's kind of over-matured, right? He's got the opposite problem now. He's not the young, wide-eyed kid. He's the disgruntled old man who's been jaded, right? And kind of either needs to recover or get out of the way. And fortunately does recover, and I think in a very satisfying way also. But yeah, it's interesting to think about that in the way Luke is portrayed in the whole trilogy throughout.
So my overarching theory about fan service is that it can be good or bad, and it can be implemented in good or bad ways, or effective ways, I guess is a better way of saying it. The most effective fan service is if it serves the story. So if it's like not just there as an ornamental, just thrown in to satisfy fans, like it's unnecessary.
Right.
Second is if it's fulfilling. So like if it's something that fans seeing it fulfills some need or desire that they have, that it's satisfying the way that it's executed. A bad example of fan service is if it's distracting, or if it draws you out of the story, or makes you question. Maybe it creates plot holes, or otherwise just makes you lose the continuity of what you're experiencing as a viewer of the film.
Yeah,
takes you out, and it's like, hey, wait a second, that's actually something outside of Star Wars that's happening right now.
Right. I think the 3PO example is kind of like that, where it's kind of it's distracting.
because you stop in your tracks. And you're like, wait a second, why is 3PO here? And trying to connect the threads of how he would not be recognized later on, and so it can be distracting. I think now we're all used to it, so it's fine with me. But I think that is one that's probably a tougher example to justify. And then lastly, does it evoke the intended response? So whatever it's trying to do, if it does that, I would say it's successful, good or bad. So a good film to go through these with is Rogue One. So Rogue One has a lot of I'm going to put my screen down a little bit so you can see Baby Yoda for the rest of the time a little bit more.
Yes, that'll help calm me down. It'll bring up my paternal instincts.
Rogue One has a lot of fan service in it. By its nature, it just is that way because it's a prequel and it covers a very tiny section of the timeline in the Star Wars galaxy, and it's plucked right out of the opening crawl of Star Wars. The part I put this section here. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire. During the battle, Rebel spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. So that little paragraph is exploded out to be a 2-hour film.
Yeah.
And it's a really effective one. It's one of my favorite films. I'd say, I don't know if it's like top 3, top 5. It probably varies day to day, but it's up there. It's like one of the most, every time I watch it, I am fulfilled as a fan.
Yeah. Well, and when my wife and I did our Star Wars marathon recently, we watched Rogue One right before A New Hope. And that crawl, I usually don't read the crawl, but maybe that's heresy. But I read the crawl and I saw that and I thought, oh, that's the plot of Rogue One right there, back in 77. Or is it 77 when
77? Yep.
Yeah. George Lucas foresaw the future past.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it was actually pitched to Lucasfilm. I want to say his name is John Knoll. Is I think the name of the guy who came up with he pitched the story to Lucasfilm to Kathleen Kennedy. He's a Lucasfilm employee. He's actually a pretty incredible guy. The way I've heard it said is that he invented Photoshop. I don't know if it's literally true, but he was definitely instrumental in developing a lot of technologies that we all use and that we see in films. He was around for that whole prequel era at Lucasfilm, including before that, leading up to the prequels. Anyway, so he pitched the story to Kathleen Kennedy and to Disney, and they're like, yes, let's do this story. And that was his pitch: here's the scroll, the opening scroll, crawl, and that paragraph. Let's do a movie about this. And he came up with the basic story that we know today. And so that plot is, like I said, it kind of fulfills that same Indiana Jones type fan service of providing the backstory for something that we all have had planted in our heads for 40 years, and now we're going to find out what that's all about. It's the fear of snakes. It's the whip, or the fedora. We're finding out where that all came from. Where did that data tape that Leia plugs into R2 come from?
So you're saying the whole film itself is basically
fan service.
Fan service. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. You could make the argument, and I think that's perfectly fine because it's something that I think we all wanted to see or would want to see. And if it's effectively done, I think it can be good. So, in my opinion, that was a good choice.
Yeah.
Another fan service aspect of these films is the characters that we see. So we see a lot of recurring characters. Senator Organa Bail Organa from the prequel trilogy. He's also mentioned in the original trilogy. He's Leia's father. We get to see him stepping out of the shadows around that the council's table. What do you want to call it? The round table of the Rebel Alliance. You have Mon Mothma there, who's the leader of the rebels. General Dodonna is there as well. He is the one that analyzes the Death Star plans in A New Hope. And then out of the shadows steps Senator Organa. That moment just
Yeah.
It made me very emotional to see him standing there. Every moment with him in that movie is so great.
Yeah.
It was a gift.
Now, quick question, and I'm sorry I keep on deviating from the topic.
No, that's fine.
But
Yeah.
the what was her name again?
Mon Mothma.
Mon Mothma. So was that was that another CGI generation?
No. So that woman actually just looks pretty close to what the original Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi looks like. So
okay, so it was just a very doppelganger, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
And she was actually going to be in the prequels, but they cut the scenes that she was in. There's like these scenes of Queen Amidala. You can see them on the DVD special features. Queen Amidala and Mon Mothma and a couple other senators get together and they're plotting how to overthrow, or like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Vote of no confidence?
No, this is later. They want to meet with the Separatists and have a diplomatic solution to end the war.
Oh.
And that little alliance of senators turns into the Rebel Alliance after the Empire.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back and watch that.
And you can see that more in the Clone Wars animated series as well. There's some episodes between those senators. So having Mon Mothma there is kind of fan service and General Dodonna. Having Leia and General Tarkin was fan service. Like they actually had to use the CGI, as you pointed out, for those. But it was really cool to see Tarkin. One of my friends watched that movie, and afterwards, I was like, "Oh, I can't believe what they did with Tarkin." And he was like, "What? What did they do with Tarkin?" And I was like, "The CGI." And he didn't know that it was CGI, that it wasn't actually the actor. I don't think that he recognized him, so I don't think he knew that was a guy.
I knew enough about it, but I looked it up as I was watching the movie. I thought, okay, this guy can't still be.
Yeah.
If he's alive, like he can't look the same.
Yeah, no, they did a great job with it. I mean, it obviously looks fake if you inspect it too closely, but just casually watching the film, you're probably not thinking about that too much. But it was great.
It's Lucasfilm, so they can always go back and improve it later, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Thankfully, George Lucas set that precedent. As hated as some aspects of the special editions are, I think it can be good.
That one would be okay, just to improve because I'm sure the technology in a few years will be better. And
yeah, there's like a deep fake that I think you saw that I posted. Like, I think they could redo Leia right now and make her 100% better. It was good. It was great, but it wasn't quite realistic enough to be satisfying. So I'd like them to go back and fix that. Another example of fan service was Ponda Baba and Dr. Cornelius Evazan. So these two characters are in A New Hope in the cantina when Luke comes up to them and the guy taps him on the shoulder and says, "He doesn't like you.
Yeah.
We have the death sentence on 12 systems." And then Obi-Wan chops his arm off, and that's the end of it. So, but then they show up on Jeddah, those two characters, and they kind of say a similar line, watch yourself or whatever. And it's so clear that I think that's probably the worst example of fan service in Rogue One. It's fine. It's kind of fun to have those characters back. But it's like, it takes you out of the story a little bit. You're like, how did they get to Tatooine fast enough without being destroyed in the big Death Star?
The explosion.
The explosion. Because they need to be in Tatooine in a couple weeks.
That's right. Yeah.
Who knows how long that time period was, but pretty soon. And they need to get off Jeddah. And why do they happen to be on that planet that we happen to be on? So that one was a little bit of a stretch, I'd say.
That's a bit much.
It was still kind of fun.
Yeah.
There's a small moment of C-3PO and R2-D2 in Rogue One. So they just appear in the Rebel base. You see a pan shot of them getting ready to go, and that's it. On the intercom at the Rebel base, you get to hear on the PA, someone announces, General Syndulla, please report to such and such. General Syndulla is a character in Rebels, the animated series. So that was your little fan service for the Rebels fans. They get to hear General Syndulla. So there's also in the big dogfight at the end of the film, there is Red Leader and Gold Leader, who were the same actors, footage of them from A New Hope was reused, unused footage, I think, for the most part, to splice them into the dog fights.
Oh.
And also you get to kind of, I think they had Red 5 was the call sign for Luke in A New Hope. You get to see the original Red 5 who dies, and then Luke gets his call sign in A New Hope.
Oh, okay.
Another little fan servicey moment.
Yeah.
And then the big one, the big kahuna, is Darth Vader showing up with his lightsaber, slashing those stormtroopers, making his way towards those plans.
Or the rebels, right? The
rebels, sorry, yeah. And then he makes his way to the end of the bridge and sees the Tantive 4 speed away.
Yeah.
And go into light speed. So that was an incredible moment. I think
that was
totally
amazing.
Worth the risk of evoking a response by the fan service haters.
So what was their backlash against that one?
Yeah, there was probably some. Some people think that it went too far.
Well, why wouldn't he be there? I mean, it kind of makes sense in the story.
It does.
Because he's the one who's following them later, but...
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And you know what? I think they probably made about $300 million off that scene. So I think Rogue One would have been successful either way, but having Darth Vader do that scene is what made people go back and see it again.
Yeah.
So I think they made the right financial choice, and they made the right choice for spectacle. And like you said, it makes sense that he's there.
Yeah.
It's not like it takes you out of the story. It's like, why is Darth Vader here? It's like, no, Darth Vader belongs here.
Makes sense, I think.
As much as anybody.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the only problem with the scene, I think, is that 2 minutes later, or however long it is between then and when you see Darth Vader again, he's suddenly very stoic, doesn't know how to use his lightsaber very well.
Oh, okay.
He's like, he lets the stormtroopers do the fighting, and he just kind of walks in afterwards. So there's a little bit of a difference in his demeanor, but it could be explained by, just saying now there's no urgency because they have them captured, so it's just a matter of letting the stormtroopers do the dirty work, and then he marches in and takes the plans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have that main problem of just like, why are Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi not as skilled with lightsabers in general in A New Hope when in the prequels they were like
it's unfortunate.
Mad, kung fu ninjas, But
have you seen those videos that people have done of like revamping the lightsaber fights between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader?
I have, they're pretty cool. But I mean, it's just one of those things. Is like you have to have some what's the term? I guess a suspension of disbelief, right? When to get over those differences, but it's like, okay, well, this movie was made long before.
So I guess my conclusion is fan service can be a good thing. It can be used effectively. It can be used ineffectively. It can be used excessively. But as a fan, I think if you go into a movie, you just have to gauge your expectations based on what you know about the project. Don't rely too heavily on having the movie there just to please you, like a Last Jedi situation. If you go into it hoping for certain things to happen and you won't be satisfied otherwise, I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah.
But you also shouldn't go in hoping that you don't have your wishes fulfilled for some reason. If you're watching a blockbuster film, you should expect that some of those secrets and mysteries are going to be revealed to you. You're going to find out the backstory on some things that maybe you didn't want to know the backstory of. That's, if you're going to watch a sequel, you got to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of interesting too, comparing fan service to the whole effort to not have spoilers. Because part of the experience, especially of Star Wars, it seems, is wanting to be surprised or wanting to have somebody else tell you the story in a way that you wouldn't have expected. Otherwise, we wouldn't care about spoilers, right? Because we know what's going to happen. It's just what we want to happen. So there's at least some element there of where, we hope we'll like it, but we want something that's not completely predictable.
And I think that's a good kind of end the discussion on with The Mandalorian, that, some of the surprises, so to speak, the spoilers, is not so much something that happens that's unexpected. I think there's very little plot going on that's unexpected. There's no Darth Vader, I'm your father moments so much. It's more like seeing Ahsoka for the first time in live action was one of those moments where just like my mind was blown seeing that. I knew it was going to happen. It had been leaked that she was going to be in it. They had said her name 2 episodes prior, but seeing her there with her 2 lightsabers, oh man, it was just so fulfilling and satisfying.
That was pretty cool.
That.
Yeah.
And so that's like those moments you don't want that to be spoiled. But how do you spoil that? I think the only way you spoil that is to actually have the footage leak. So it's pretty easy to keep those kinds of things under wraps. I think seeing Baby Yoda was probably the biggest moment as far as something that I wasn't expecting at all.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful moment. I'm really glad that did not leak in particular.
Yeah. That was really cool.
But they've done a good job, I think, of balancing that fan service versus moving forward with original content and tying threads together in The Mandalorian. It's a really really good balance. Every week you get something to really make you cheer, jump up in your seat. But you're also, you're getting a good mix of old and new. Yeah.
We'll have to, as the Mandalorian series goes on through, we'll have to talk a little bit more about it and the character development of Mando or Din Djarin has become very interesting as of the last episode. Some very interesting developments there. Yeah. Because he has really been kind of static up till now, but in the past couple, stuff's starting to move with Grogu getting taken from him.
You can definitely see some progression in his thinking about who he is and what it means to be Mandalorian.
Yeah,
and even morality, subjects of right and wrong, and that kind of thing. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
it's a lot more cerebral than I would have thought. And it just is a few moments of dialogue that they've thrown in, but it goes a long way.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, awesome. Thank you very much for putting all this together, Jeff.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.